here at Steam Exchange. As always, we appreciate you taking the time out of your already busy schedule to be with us. For today's AMA, we have a couple of components that we did want to cover. Topic number one being the gamified learning updates. We also have some infrastructure updates, followed by our interim DEX solution and the overall migration readiness, which does entail the interim DEX. So without further ado, what I'd like to do here is just pass it over to Neville, who will kind of step us through the recent gamified learning updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the AMA. So on the gamified learning front, we're making some pretty significant progress and quick. So we were anticipating Q2 for the first iteration of questions and answering and any kind of dialogue, but we're way ahead of schedule. So we actually have implemented now the initial questions and answers for the hub level. So like I always mention, the different levels of the game, the hub level is kind of your home world. And in your home world, you're going to be taught the game mechanics by speaking to the non-players, the NPCs. And then also they're going to start teaching you some of the terminology and words that you're going to hear frequently throughout your learning, so you can become more acquainted with the knowledge that you're going to be receiving. So in the hub level, for example, when you go to a player, it would ask you a question, and it would ask you if you know a particular term. If your answer is yes or no, it will then educate you on that term. Once you've accomplished all the questions from level 1, it'll navigate you to the portal, the appropriate portal, and you can then teleport to the next level, which will be level 1. So far we have all the questions and answers in place for level 1 and the hub, and we will be demoing that very soon. We're thinking about putting it online on a web page, which will be mobile friendly, accompanied by a feedback response form, or also a live chat I mentioned previously. So that should be coming very soon, hopefully within the next within February, so the next couple of weeks. So we're pretty close on that. So you'll get your chat, you'll get to finally play the game in its first version. It is very buggy. I will forewarn you. There is a lot of little kinks that we set to work out, but hopefully we can iron out as much as possible before we release this beta. With the feedback from that, the team at Waterloo will go and fix the things that they have to fix. They will continue implementing the knowledge engine. And then we move into phase 2 of the gamified learning, where the student that we're currently working with will move on and continue with her PhD. And we're going to receive another PhD student that will be specialized in different expertise to help us continue pushing this initiative forward. So definitely stay tuned for that. A lot of exciting things coming for gamified learning, and also for the partnership with the University of Waterloo. Definitely stay tuned for that. I'll pass it back to Chris.
Thanks, Nev. Yeah, and definitely on that front, there's a lot of heavy lifting being done by all the teams that are plugged in, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing that demo. I know I've had a chance to see some of the interconnected pieces, and it's pretty fun. I can say that much. So thank you. All right, so let's step through the infrastructure updates, starting with the TUNEX and our platform, right? Now, as for our last update and previous ones prior to, we've been doing our best to keep you guys abreast with the ongoing hurdles our external partners continue to face. Again, nonetheless, they remain pretty grounded and focused on the task at hand and continue to chip away, as always, right? If you've had a chance to take a recent look at the beta.steamexchange.io, you would definitely notice the continued UI enhancements, as well as experience more of a smoother look and feel navigation-wise, right? So this will continue to be optimized in the coming weeks and months. For now, this platform is not critical path. And when I say not critical path, we did speak about our interim DEX solution. So, we'll keep running this swim lane in conjunction with that. However, it is not critical path for us launching with the interim DEX solution. So as we receive the additional downstream updates from the team, we'll do our best to bring you guys in these updates, and any applicable things that are worth demoing, we'll continue to toss it up there. But we do encourage you, based on our last AMA and the instructions that were received for the community, to go ahead and continue to play around with the environment, right? So I guess let's shift gears over to our internal development front, where the team is locked in, right, on all the required components to ensure we have a smooth safe and seamless migration, right? So one of the big hitters there is obviously the Rails network overall readiness, right? Which the team has a pretty good handle on right now. There are some things in terms of documentation that we're still plugging away to make sure that we have it locked and loaded, and the continued optimization to make sure that the environment is stable and is performing where we need it to be. This also includes the integration with the interim DEX, which Neville will touch on a little bit more. The interim DEX will back into our blockchain. So that integration is obviously key to success, right? That's a huge one for our teams there. We have continued Rails network smart contract work, which is being performed as well. And then on the management system side of the ball, now that's more for us, but obviously how we're managing the blockchain on a day-to-day basis and being able to support the community from that perspective. We have that in place, and we're continuing to optimize it to make sure that it fits our needs and it will fit the community needs when that set time does come. We also have optimization and readiness for the Block Explorer, which we demoed, I want to say a few weeks back, or probably over a month back. That will continue to expand on the Block Explorer. And that's also going to include the upgrades of our validation modules to ensure that that's as seamless as possible too. And then in terms of the pre-sale and launchpad, that's what will be the big ticket item for helping ensure that the users can swap over to the native. And then also too, not only that, but that will be the landing zone where our said projects which we have brought through the ringer and validated and vetted will be leveraging to launch projects as well too, right? So overall, we continue to maintain a high degree of confidence in what's in front of us to support this migration from an infrastructure, and we'll continue to ensure that security. And I'm definitely not stuttering there, but security is number one in terms of top of our mind, right? Again, this is not by any means a sprint. We need to continue to think longevity in terms of being able to launch and build an ecosystem that's going to be sustainable for years to come. So at this juncture right now, that's what we have for you from an infrastructure update, and we'll continue to pull in the information as it's ready available. So right now we'll kind of switch gears and we'll step back over here to the interim DEX.
Thanks so much, Chris. So for the interim DEX, we have two kind of solutions that we're working with. Both of them are about, I would say, 50 to 60% completed. The first one is a DEX that allows you to trade to any chain that you would like by selecting a particular chain. So the layout of it, I wish I can show you it, but I can't show you it yet. You would have two tabs, essentially. You would have the first tab saying Rails Network, which would show you all the pairs that are currently associated with Rails Network. And then the second tab will just be called DEX. And through that, you would have a drop-down menu, and you can select the chain that you can trade to or you would like to trade with by connecting your wallet to the appropriate chain. The second solution, which is a little bit more complicated, but takes full advantage of the infrastructure that we have set up, would be same thing. You would have two tabs. The first tab would say Rails, same thing. It would have all the particular pairs that have launched on the Rails network. Any other projects that have launched with us, for example, when we migrate, would be listed under Rails. And the second tab would then be called DEX again, but through there, you can trade without selecting a chain. So you would connect your wallet, and through your wallet, you would have an asset, let's say on Binance Smart Chain. Let's say you have BSC Ethereum, pegged Ethereum. You want to swap it over to Ethereum mainnet. You would be able to do that through the swap by swapping it from pegged to mainnet Ethereum native coin. So that's going to be seamless, almost like a bridge, but not quite a bridge. And on the back end, we'll handle all the bridging for you. So that's kind of the two solutions that we have in mind. Like I mentioned, they're both about 50 to 60% complete. Instead of showing you what it looks like, what we're thinking about doing is probably putting it online, a V1 and a V2, and having you navigate to it and take a look at it. It won't be live. You won't be able to trade on it until we are ready to take transactions. But you can at least see what it looks like and how it's going to function. So that's the interim DEX. solution. It's coming along pretty well. Once we have the aggregator set up, what's going to happen is once you put your trade in, you'll get a pop-up saying it's going to be fetching the best price. It's going to go through all of our liquidity pools that we have integrated via API and other means, and it'll pull the best price from the best pool, and then it's going to execute your trade. It all happens through smart contracts. So what you're going to be essentially doing is once you've executed your trade, you've given approval for your trade to take place, the smart contract will take over. It will then go and fetch the price. It'll get the best price for you. You're going to approve that price, and then it's going to execute your trade. So it's a little bit complicated, but again, the solution's already in place on our 2nex solution. So it's not something that we're reinventing. It's something that already exists and that we're going to be implementing on this interim solution. So like Chris mentioned, the swap is obviously the most fundamental for the migration. It would make no sense for us to migrate to our chain without being able to facilitate trading. So what we're going to be doing is putting heavy focus on the DEX, integrating it with Rails network, and trying to get as ready as possible for the switchover to the Rails network.
All right.
Sorry,
Thanks, Dev.
Is this a slide you wanted, Chris? Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're good. You're good. All right. So I guess Neville, let's talk a little bit about migration readiness, right, and the overall lay of the land per se, right? So I won't sit here and kind of repeat myself with regards to what we need to do for readiness, right? But you can kind of see from our product readiness, documentation, backend integrations, these are a lot of things that will be required to get us to the point of migration readiness, right? And they're all critical path, with the exception, like I said, of the trading platform. They are running in conjunction with our interim DEX solution, but nonetheless, this is why what you're seeing here now. You might be wondering, you see the 5-month window at the bottom and wondering, hey, why 5 months, right? Again, it's not about a sprint, right? What we're also considering too is, it's not just enough to put a product out there, right? You need to be able to have the appropriate time for a marketing ramp up, stress testing, audits, and migration readiness, right? So again, our goal is to have this as seamless and smooth as possible, and hence the reason what you're seeing here, right? Marketing and ramp up is definitely a huge one for us. Unfortunately, we don't have Vera here to kind of speak to it in detail, but you guys get the idea with regards to having a product is one thing, but having the appropriate foot traffic behind that product is another thing as well too, right? So they kind of go hand in hand in terms of making sure that we're doing the appropriate marketing, the appropriate collaborations, and getting out there from an overall voice perspective, getting the interest that we need. That way, when we do launch, it's boots to the ground and we're running, right? Stress testing and audits obviously is another huge one. We will not be launching without any audits, right? We need to make sure that this thing checks all the boxes. We've done all the appropriate due diligence, and if there's anything else that gets called off from the audit, then we need to go back and do what we need to do, right? So definitely marketing ramp up and stress testing is a huge one, and audits, and then the migration readiness, right? Just making sure that we, again, have our T's, cross our T's and dot our I's. We are in the best position possible to ensure that when we do launch, we have the appropriate support mechanisms in place to support the community. We're not going to launch and leave everyone high and dry, right? This is something that we need to make sure that we're fully locked and ready to support the demand that comes with launching. Nev, you want to add anything to that?
For sure. So yeah, like Chris mentioned, it does say 5-month window at the bottom, but that doesn't mean that it could potentially take the full 5 months. There's a lot of readiness that has to take place, as you can see on the screen. Once we're ready and we're confident and we've passed our audits, we can launch anytime within that 5-month window, but we're giving ourselves that much runway to make sure that we can deliver a product that is, acceptable, and beyond acceptable, I would say. Because from day one, we've never said that we want to release a product just for the sake of releasing it. We want to release a product that is, complete, number one. It's functional, and it has a disruptive functionality that other products don't have, right? So that way you're not just using another swap, for example, you're not just using another exchange. There's benefits to using our ecosystem. So we're definitely going to continue plugging away. Like I mentioned in the DEX update, we are 50 to 60% complete with that. And like Chris mentioned, this is not a sprint to complete development. This is a sprint to be ready for migration. And it's a big step for us, right? We've been working towards this moment for a long time. All of us, including you as our community, we've all been waiting patiently, including us with development. So, all of it coming together now and being right there is a very wholesome feeling. And we're extremely excited to push forward and get this done.
Right on. And something else I want to talk to is with regards to the developer application, right? And referral program. That's something, on the back end, we've definitely been getting poked with that interest, right? So we're also tapping into these developer communities, getting the word out there and kind of, shaking hands from that perspective, right? And getting that interest, right? We've always said that, it's not just about the trading, it's about getting developers on board in conjunction with Steem Exchange and getting them into the ecosystem and playing around, right? And you can definitely see, other quite popular, and won't name any, but other blockchains that are out there that are definitely along the same lines where they have that developer interest. They can come in, create their applications, and overall help bolster that sustainability in the ecosystem, right? So it is definitely a huge one, and my goal would be, again, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we can kind of, without naming names, get you guys an idea of what kind of projects are expressing their interest in potentially doing work with Steem Exchange in our ecosystem, and it's pretty fun to see and pretty exciting to hear that developers are willing and curious to come onto our blockchain, see what we have to offer, and do work with us, right? So it's definitely a lot.
For sure, it's definitely so the few people that have approached us, they're definitely fun projects. So not so. I keep saying this, but our project is a little bit dull and boring in the sense that we're launching a platform and ecosystem, and then we rely on developers to bring the fun to the table. So the two projects, at least the two projects that Chris is talking about, are definitely fun, right, and definitely different from what we're trying to accomplish. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to learn more about, I guess, how we're working with them to get this up and going and up and running. So exciting times ahead. Like I mentioned, we're extremely close. Don't let this 5-month window deter you and your motivation towards migration. It's just giving us the runway that we need to make sure this happens.
Well said. Okay, so from my end, I don't have anything else to bring forward to there. So I believe, and Neville, unless you have something else to add, I believe we can kind of conclude today's AMA, and hopefully, the next AMA we will have a little bit more to bring forward. At least from a demo perspective, we would like to at least show you guys a little bit more. We're talking to it, and you guys are obviously digesting this information. But if you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to obviously engage in the chat as always, and our teams will be there accordingly.
For sure, and this is the time to kind of begin pushing the idea, right? Or not the idea, rather, like the migration. There's a lot of investors that have been here for a long time. A lot of them maybe forgot about us, but are still invested. A lot of them sold a long time ago, thinking that we wouldn't reach this point. But now that we're here, part of the marketing campaign that we're planning is to go back into these communities that we were once, part of, to do AMAs, again, to outreach to these investors that are still here, who are not following along, and or investors that did drop off along the way, and just kind of show them where we are, where we're heading, and what's coming down the pipe. And then it's our job as a community to also do the same thing. So any of your friends that that were part of Steem Exchange at one point, or are part of Steem Exchange, who are no longer following along, it's time to give them a nudge and say, hey, get ready for migration. Here we come. I think that's going to be important for you as a community to help build this foundation before we launch and migrate. And of course, it's important for us as an organization and as an ecosystem to have a solid foundation to build on top of and go forward with. So marketing efforts and shilling and whatever you want to call it is going to start ramping up. So stay tuned for that and keep your eyes out for any opportunities that do come up for the marketing or on the marketing front. But definitely, as a community, it's time for us to all step up and do our roles and pushing this idea forward.
Well said.
So Virav's not here with us today. Something did come up with him, so we're not going to do a Q&A for this particular AMA, which I think is a good thing because there's a lot of, I guess, information here to digest and to think about. And I guess we can talk about it in the chat as well until the next AMA. So any questions you do have that are pertaining to this particular topic, feel free to drop in the chat once we start chatting again, and we'll definitely answer them as soon